Because Allah Azza wa Jal is a planner. Allah is a planner. And plans have steps. And in the earliest, most unlikely step, as someone would think, a prophet of Allah, an innocent child, being thrown into the midst of slavery. Why would Allah do this? He said, surprisingly, that is how we established him in the land. You're like, that's how you established him in the land? I trust you, Arab. I mean, I'll taste the end product, I guess. And now we've gone through so many adventures with Yusuf alayhi salam, and we get to the point where he is sitting on the throne, literally, for all practical purposes. He's running the country. And Allah says, and that is how we established Yusuf in the land. As if to say, I'll add, for me to understand, you get it now? Do you now understand how my plan works? How there are parts of my plan that may not make any sense to you, but they are part of a much larger goal at the end, the timeline for which is not up to you. It could be a few hours from now. It could be years from now. It could be decades from now. It could be generations from now, but it was still part of my plan. There are things that he puts in his plan that take into effect. We can't think the kind of long-term thinking Allah Azza wa Jal has for each person's life. So that first statement is very powerful for that reason. Another thing that you notice about وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ فِي الْأَرْضِ is as if Allah is saying, and that is how we give power to someone like Yusuf, who was imprisoned and enslaved. And when we wanted, we would put something in the heart of a king that he couldn't go to sleep until he hears the answer, the remedy that can only come from the tongue of Yusuf alayhi salam. When I want, I can take an inmate who was sitting in a jail cell in the corner one night, and the next night he's in the highest palace in the land. I can do that. I can change somebody's worldly circumstances overnight, and it's not just a phase that they're going through. I will establish them firm as if they always had that position, and they will always have that position. Makkanna. I can do that. And that's what we did for Yusuf alayhi salam. What Allah is saying is Allah is in charge of completely enhancing and modifying and completely changing somebody's circumstances. What? He can take someone in the most frail, the most vulnerable, the most unsafe circumstances. By the way, if Yusuf alayhi salam gets beat up in prison, if he gets jailed in prison, if he gets injured in prison, if he gets humiliated in prison, if he gets misused in prison, they get him to do all kinds of labor in prison. Whatever happens, is anybody even going to check? Is any authority going to come and fight for his justice or nothing? Nothing. He has no rights. He has no rights. At that point, he has no freedom, no rights, nothing. And from there to where he is in the next 24 hours, you understand? And that's Allah says, and that's how I plan. Human beings can't come up with a plan like that. Can you imagine somebody sitting in a jail cell telling them, tomorrow I'm going to be sitting next to the king. I'm going to run this country. Yeah, finish your food. Who's going to believe that? Who's going to believe that? Human beings are not capable of this kind of a plan. That can only come from Allah, and that is all encapsulated inside this mighty phrase, وَكَذَلِكَ مَكَّنَّا لِيُوسُفَ.